Hello. Welcome to another episode of the craziness that lives inside my head. My name is Eric, and today we're going to take up a topic in gay relationships. Doesn't have to be gay, it could be also straight. And we want to talk about monogamous versus polyamorous. Let me say it again. Monogamous or monogamy versus polyamorous. I would say polygamy, but polygamy is when you marry more than once. We're going to talk about people who, in relationships, monogamous relationships, and people who are in a polyamorous relationship, more than one. And we're going to talk to, his name is Samad Keys. So, welcome to the show. So let's talk about your experience. Let's get right into it.
Okay.
What do you think it is and what I think it is? Well, let's talk about the differences between monogamous and polyamorous
hmm
and the gay community. I'm going to keep it that way because when I came out the closet, I didn't think there was such a thing as monogamy, but the people I was hanging with.
Hmm. So, okay, I guess should I introduce myself first,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
folks? Hey everyone, I'm Samad West Keys, um, guest of the show, host of a Sip with Samad podcast as well, where we talk about similar topics, but I'm interested in this one because I feel like this is going to be uh, a raw discussion. So I'm happy about it because I don't get the chance to do that all the time because everybody wants to see Dr. Keys. So this is just the mod right now. So let's see. My thoughts on polyamory versus monogamy and the gay relationships. To be honest with you, my thoughts have evolved over time. When I remember being young and gay, and saying that I was going to be with this one person, and nobody else can't have them but me. It was kind of, and when I think about it now, it's kind of childish, right? To think that way. It's kind of childish to think that way, but I would definitely say as I've aged and experienced life and experienced just being in a long-term relationship. I'm married, we've been together for 17 years in May. Um, I don't really care anymore. Like it's sad to say, it's not that I don't care about the person I'm with. I just got other things to think about, whether or not you sleeping in the bed, sucking, fucking, do whatever you like. I don't like, hey, just don't bring nothing home is my like is my rule of thumb. But I do think that a lot of folks do still struggle with this idea of like I have to have this one person. A lot of our challenge is that we're trying to mimic relationships of our parents and our grandparents and aunts and uncles. We don't realize like while granddaddy had 5 kids with your mother, he might have had two outside the house,
Mm-hmm.
right? And no shade to anybody's mama, but mama might have had a side piece too.
Yeah,
But we weren't privy to that because we just, they weren't sharing that type of shit with us.
yeah.
So it's kind of like we're spending so much time trying to mimic these relationships. At a certain point, I can remember hearing Monique say, when she was, I guess, being interviewed or asked about her open relationship, and she was just like, yeah, I don't like, do what you have to do and just come home and keep it safe, don't bring me nothing, right? And I was just like, oh, that's an interesting way to think about this. um but I do have one rule,
Yeah.
and that one rule is don't embarrass me. So if you do something out in the streets, you need to let me know, because I'll be damned if somebody walk up to me and they're like, oh yeah, well, I did such and such with this, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, and now I gotta save face. So my number one rule is if you do something outside of this relationship, let me know. Hell, you can just let me know before you go do it. I may even ask to record, right? Like,
Yeah.
but don't embarrass me. Spare me public embarrassment. That's my only rule.
Yeah. Well, my experience is interesting. Um, of course, I guess you could say I just got out of high school. I met a guy. We worked together. It was never mentioned about, gay or anything. He had a girlfriend, and then I really didn't have a girlfriend. I had women friends, that's the difference. And then blah, how you say yada yada yada. We got drunk one night, you know what happened. And then after that, of course, I was in love. I want to get married. I want to have the two car garage. And if we could even have the kids, because we can adopt, and that's what I want. And of course, he said, um, slow down.
Mhm, mhm,
Told me to
mhm.
slow down. But he was now, this is, mind you now, was only 18, 19 years old. And he claimed he wanted to be with me, but this is what I had to do in order to be with him. His idea was we both was going to get married to women, buy a house, buy a brownstone. I live upstairs, he lived downstairs, have our kids, and then fool around. Then it was weird. It was weird.
It's given the odd couple.
Yeah,
But
it was really like, and I was young and frisky. I wasn't having it. I just wasn't having it. And the only thing before I got tired of the BS, I was talking about being embarrassed. We was at a bar. It was pretty much a straight bar, but it's one of those bars where the excuse my expression, drag queens hang out because
Mhm.
they were, what they were doing. They was picking up these straight guys, blah blah blah. So he told me that he was going out to get a pack of cigarettes. I'm sitting there and drinking my drink. I'm looking, and he's gone for a whole hour. This drag queen came in. She came up next to me and she whispered in my ear. She said, "I just had your man."
Oh,
And then he walks in, and then I was going to cause a, you know how we do. I was ready to cause a scene. And he tried to calm me down, and he put $50 bill in my pocket because he charged her $50 to give him a blowjob. So he gave it to me. What did that make me now? Now I'm a pimp. So he gave me the $50. And I said, no, we're not having this. And I had a car at the time, he didn't. And I was
can
starting.
we back up for a second? Hold on, because I'm this is a lot to this is a lot. Hold on. I need clarification. So the person that you were dating at the time gave the drag queen head.
No, the drag queen gave him head.
Okay, the drag queen gave him head, and he gave the drag queen the $50.
No, she gave him the $50.
She paid him to give.
I didn't tell you well, I guess I should have told you. He was downright gorgeous. He'd go out with him because everybody, as soon as I walk in a bar, everybody's chasing after him, trying to buy him drinks, men and women. He was just downright gorgeous. So well,
This,
actually,
I
when he
mean,
did it, I didn't believe it.
he has to be gorgeous as hell if the
Well,
drag
he was.
said, "Here, I'm gonna pay you to give you head."
He was one of those what they call those mulatto black guys with in the summertime, the sun bleached his hair, so he had this blonde hair.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Green eyes, oh hazel eyes, and trying to keep everything undercover. And I keep trying to take him out of the cover.
Mm.
So anyway, that was it. There's more to the story. We got into the car. I got mad. We had a big argument, and I said, "If I can't have you, nobody can have you." And I took the wheel, and I was going to run into a tractor trailer, oncoming tractor trailer. He took the wheel back. He said, "You're trying to kill me. You're trying to kill me," and start punching me in my face, and because we lived in Brooklyn. That we went to a bar in Manhattan, so I had to drive to Brooklyn. To the first apartment I ever had. Went into the apartment, and I shouldn't say this. Went to the apartment and was the best sex I ever had. I said, I got to do this more often.
So, okay, I have I so let me back up. I wouldn't have been comfortable being in a relationship and being in I guess a non-monogamous relationship. When I was younger, I was okay. Like that was not my business. So
Yeah.
being the person on the outside, my thoughts were that's for y'all to figure out. That's for you all to decide. I'm just an outsider. I have no control in this outside of the fact that I'm just giving you consent to have sex. Um, I think I so similarly when I was in college, I got approached by this dude. Um, he was South African. Well, he is South African. And I was just like, "Oh, this is really exotic, a little somebody from the motherland. Go ahead and get this experience." And I didn't know the dude had a whole long-term partner.
Mm.
So we had been, sexing for a bit. He's been over at my house a couple of times, and I never really asked about his house because he would always just come to mine, and it was easier for me.
Yeah.
Um, he ended up, I think at some point, I think I may have asked about coming to his house, like, why not just come over to your house then? And he finally can't confess, or either he wasn't available when I wanted him to be available, and he kind of had to tell me that he was with somebody like his partner.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. And now in my head, I'm like, well, the sex was good. So, Samad, it is what it is. It doesn't have to be it ain't gonna it's not gonna be a long-term relationship. I'm not here for a long time, I'm here for a good time. That's what I told myself.
Yeah.
So long story, fast forward, at some point, he brings me to his house.
Mm.
And the dude was there. So I was like, oh, okay, well, this is awkward, but I'm from Jersey. And so I'm not gonna, like I'm not a punk.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm gonna make sure, like, I'm just gonna stand my ground. I don't care if it is your house, right? I'm still gonna give you confidence, like I'm giving you all of that. So I just walked in, I said, oh, nice to meet you. I heard so much about you, all of that stuff.
I, I, I don't think you should have said that, but go ahead.
So it was actually interesting. We had a nice little exchange, but then they extended an invitation to move in. They had like a little loft upstairs, and they was like, "Yeah, you could just stay upstairs." And I said no. It was a very appealing offer.
Yeah. But did you fool around with the other guy?
Oh, it was both of them
Okay. All right.
at the same time.
All right.
And I thought it was one of those situations where, you've been having sex and you just like, how long is this gonna, I don't know if I can, like, this is a long time. Like both of y'all, like, y'all have the stamina of Africans. Like this is, like, this is a lot. But yeah, I can remember that. And I was just like, at some point, like, please, like, I hope we can all just climax and go about our business. Which we eventually did, but yeah, they invited me to join their relationship,
Yeah.
which was something that I wouldn't have been comfortable doing, or inviting somebody. Like I wouldn't have been in a relationship inviting somebody to come in. But even it felt weird for me to accept such an invitation because I felt like it was control. Like I felt like they would have had control over me. I'm living in their space. Pretty much I'm their sex toy.
They're older than you?
Yeah, they were older than me.
Okay, yeah. Then they
So
probably would have. I think they would have, yeah.
So
That's
I'm living,
so,
I'm living in their space. They're just their sex toy. I'm like,
yeah.
can I even lock my door? Next thing I'm like, you just coming in and now I gotta have sex because technically this is your house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I opted not to do it. I think about it like I mean, and I've had tryst after that with folks that I may have been seeing and other folks that they may have been talking to, but I think those, as it relates to being in a gay relationship, I didn't see those as relationships. I saw those as fuck situations.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't like somebody I was with and was planning to spend my life with. And even now, like I said, we don't like go around actively looking for some dick and some ass. But I'm just like anything is possible with a conversation because we're adults and we can talk about this. And Um, because I think one other thing, my last point is we as people, gay people in particular, have to realize that while you want to be everything for the person that you're with, you're not going to be.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And while you may think that your cheeks hit a certain type of way, somebody's cheeks might be hitting better. If you think that like your stroke game is at 100, there's probably somebody out there whose stroke game is 120. So and looks, right? Like I don't look the same way I used to when I was 18,
Mm.
22, right? And so those things shift as well. And so you have to accept that you're not going to be everything for that person. And so you got to figure out how to spice shit up. Um, like you do like a little role play, a little like whatever you need to do. Um, some people like to go out to bars and people watch. I've heard stories about people who go out and they act like they don't know each other and they talk to other people and and then probably bring them home. Now that's not me in my ministry. My husband's an introvert, so that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
But I think that at a certain point, this whole idea of monogamy versus polyamory, um, it starts to blur a little bit. Like the lines get a little bit blurred.
Well, I usually, not since I gotten older, they put men that I've dealt with, they put it out there, which I find very interesting. I mean, my last little relationship I had, I was first thing it says, do you believe monogamy? I said, yeah, I believe monogamy because I'm not going to be with nobody to be who's not monogamous and blah blah blah. So let's go there. Let's stick with the blah blah blah. Let's fast forward. I mean, who's whoring around? The one
Oh,
who wants to be monogamous. And I'm like, I mean,
so okay, let me ask a question. What do you consider whoring around? Now, is a jerk session in the showers at the bathroom considered whoring around? Does it have to be penetration?
well, let me tell you something. I was in another relationship, um, which I didn't know what the relationship was. We were living together and in the same apartment and whatever. Um, he always called me his main squeeze. I said, okay, main squeeze. Yada yada yada. A friend of mine said, I caught so and so in somebody else's house. So then I called him on it, and he said that you're not my lover. And I said, well, what am I? You're just my main squeeze.
I mean, he was up front.
Yeah, well, and he got out too. That was into that one. But the thing I find that for me, and maybe you might say I live in a fantasy world at my age. I still want it, and I know I did when I was younger. You want you do want what you said, what our parents have, so to speak. You work, you come home to your lover. You eat together, you sleep together, you do things together. Um, like they put on television. But I don't think they still put that on TV. That's what
But
I grew up with.
But what you're describing though is companionship, right?
Yeah.
It's more companionship to be able to have somebody to trust, to do stuff with, that you can trust your life. We like trust that to have your life and your best interests at heart. The sexual part is not that powerful because at
That's
the end of the,
that's
you can get sex anywhere.
they keep telling me this, but I don't want to have sex anywhere. I want to have sex with the one that I'm supposedly in love with.
Well, and they want to have sex with you and some other folks, and maybe y'all can do it all together. And then there you go. Everybody's needs are met.
Well, there is a movie. I don't know if you saw this movie. It's an old movie from the 30s. It's called The Women. That's the name of the women. And,
The
and
women.
the women and the mother, well, the main character caught her husband fooling around with somebody else, so she divorced him. He was this, he was that. But the mother said something very interesting because the mother said to her daughter, she said, "Do you really think he loves that woman?" She said, "No, I think he still loves me." She said, "That woman's nothing to him. He loves you. He doesn't love that other woman." Every time I look at that movie and I said, "Well, why the fuck is he over there, dude?" It's just,
Because sex that once we get rid of the power like of sex, and I'm a firm believer. Look, I think we, especially today, the way we market sex, it has everybody in this delusional world.
yeah,
Folks think that their dick or their ass or their pussy or whatever is worth some monetary value.
yeah,
As such, folks are like, I want to have that. Like I want to have some Gucci loafers, right? Because we are monetizing sex right now, people's ideas are a little skewed. Like even in relationships, you realize that the biggest thing or the most important um factor is not sex. Some couples don't even have sex that often. You may have been having sex multiple times a week when you got together, and then you just like, today's not my day. So that means it's not your day either. But I think dynamics change, right? And we have to understand that. But I think we put so much value on the sex part of the relationship. Like what you've described essentially sounds to me like companionship, um, versus like the sexual relationship. And what I hear people saying is, yeah, I want to be there for you. I want to, do things with you, spend quality time. I want to go to dinner, have dinner in the house, all those things. But I may want to, go ahead and get my whistle wet someplace or
yeah,
multiple
yeah,
places.
yeah, I know.
But my I still go back to this idea. I'm glad that I'm happy to do it up front. Like do it, like bring it out in the open. Because what you have is instead of going to get I guess doing it out in the open, people are doing it in the dark, and that just leads to greater issues, right? Like so that's why I'm in support of folks. If you want to be in a polyamorous relationship, an open relationship, even I say polyamorous because that's just essentially multiple partners.
Yeah,
Um, but I think there's something called like ethical polyamory,
what's
where
that?
is essentially ethical polyamory, where is essentially you and your partner have agreed that y'all gonna do stuff outside, but y'all still coming together. Like this is still y'all show.
Oh, okay.
So the other one is more so I think it's ethical polyamory, then it's the one where you just sneaking around and you not like y'all both sneaking around not talking about it.
Well, that's the one I don't like. I
So
mean, I had a guy who I had two guys propose to me. The first one said to me after we went together for 5 months, he said, I just want to let you know that um I will get your approval first before I fool around with a guy." And I said, you
that was
don't have to
admirable.
get my, huh?
That was admirable.
It was, but I said, but you don't have to get my approval because the answer will always be no. But well, I never delved in it with him, but what he was getting at, I guess we was going to share if we did bring somebody home, we was going to share it. I was in my 20s. I wasn't into that kinky stuff. So I never did it. I did on the dating line back, what, a couple of years ago, maybe 10 years ago.
Wait, the dating line still exists?
You don't do you don't do the dating line?
Well, look, I've been in a relationship for a while
Oh,
now,
that's
so
right. That's right.
I haven't been on nobody's dating line, and I haven't been on a dating line since I was in college, and it wasn't really a dating line. So let's clear the record. Folks were not going on a dating line to date. You were going on a dating line to fuck.
Well, they call it dating line. We know that. That's what they call it.
But yes, I remember the dating line. Yes.
Well, I met this guy at the dating line, and he says to me, we met, we met, had coffee and whatever. And then he said that he wanted let's fool around. He wanted to take me home. He said, but he was in a polyamorous relationship. I think he was 35. Um, he was living with two guys. Just how he explained it to me. He was living with two guys. One was in his 50s, the other one was in his 70s.
Oh,
The guy
wow.
that was in his 50s was at work. The guy that was home, that we was going to go to his apartment, was home. And he says that there's only two bedrooms. So he spent, what, 3 days with the 50-year-old guy, and then he spent the next 4 days with the 70-year-old guy. And then he said, I just want to let you know that when I'm taking you home, so and so, his lover, the 70-year-old guy, he might want to have sex with you.
Oh,
I was 20 some years old. I said, hell no. But he said, well, we'll see. So we went there. Of course, the 70-year-old guy was very nice, very friendly. And then we went and
he
he
was
took,
raised right. That was a different generation.
so so we went into the bedroom. He comes back. He wants to have sex with us. He wants to join us. I said no. So he said, okay. So he went and told the guy, I said no. And him and I, we fooled around. We finished. So it was time to go. How you say, if looks could kill? I wanted to kill
Really? So he let it go, but then was like mad that you said no.
him. Right.
Oh wow.
Right.
Okay. Ugh.
I
Yeah.
mean, I keep thinking that's the new thing that they're doing today, to these kids today, but it's not. It was out there. I just couldn't.
So here's the thing. The younger kids, the idea of sex is not as taboo as it used to be,
Mm,
right? And so they're experimenting, exploring. I mean, you can't tell whether or not somebody's gay or straight. Like the lines are murky and blurry. And I don't know if I would want to be in like growing up of age, coming of age and of sexual age at that in this current time, because I would be confused as hell. I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know what to do because you have heterosexual men that now appear, they have the appearance of what used to be a homosexual man.
yeah.
You got homosexual men who don't have the same, you can't tell anymore. Like before, I could walk into a room and be like, okay, gay. Yep, yep. I know gay. He is gay, right? And so now you can't even do that. And then you have girls doing the same thing where they, are a lot more fluid than they used to be. One minute is with a dude, the next minute is with a woman, vice or switch it up, or maybe both at the same time. And so it's just so confusing to navigate that. I just think that they're going to do whatever they want to do when they want to do it, and the ideas of how we like our value system on sex is definitely not theirs. They just want to be happy and free. And so if that means today I'm with this person, tomorrow I'm with this person, then they're like, okay, that's what I wanted. And so yes, I have that. Or today I'm with a man, tomorrow I'm with a woman. Maybe I'm with both of them at the same time. I mean, do you have a freak Twitter?
What do you mean, a freak Twitter?
Yes. So you need to get you a freak Twitter account where you don't want people in your business. And you go on Twitter and you look at the amount of sex that is on Twitter now, and the way that it's like, you talk about polyamory, you talk about monogamy, you talk about thruples, you talk about threesomes, male, male, female, women strapping on now, women eating ass now. Like the lines are blurred. Like
I know, I know.
it is not what you may have experienced, and nor what I experienced coming up.
Well, I did meet an older guy, a little older than me. I felt sorry for him. I met him online. We went for coffee, and he was depressed.
Oh.
Yeah, he was telling me his wife got cancer. I think she was dying of cancer, and his daughter don't speak to him anymore because his wife went and told the daughter about when they were young. the wife and him were young. They were back in those days in the 60s, they call them wife swappers. It's supposed to be straight adults, they swap wives or swap, yeah, mainly they swap wives. You didn't hear that? I was back in the 60s.
So they would swap each other's wives. So
Right.
if we both were married to women, I would go ahead and loan my wife to you, and you would loan your wife to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the
It,
wives, I guess the wives didn't have no say.
oh, I don't know. Well, here's what he was saying. He got into it because he was gay. And once in a while they may meet he may meet a couple, or he may, I don't know how they met. He never said how you meet these people. Though they did have a couple of clubs and stuff. And he asked his wife, that he told his wife that he was gay because he wanted to leave her, divorce her for another guy. She didn't want him to go for another guy, he said. So he says that he has to have, sex with another guy. And I don't know, he was the uppity up these bourgeois white people, I guess. So it wasn't like he could just run the streets and have sex with a.
Oh, they were
But what
white.
he did was, huh?
They were white.
Yeah. So so what he did was, and she agreed to it, to wife swap. And he said he only did it because he just want to go to bed with the husbands. She didn't want to go to bed with the wives, but she only did it for him.
Mm.
So she got tired of it. He said when she got pregnant, she stopped doing it. So that's when he got into, I don't know, these hanging out at well, back in those days, I don't know if they still have them. I know in New York City, they used to have parks, bathhouses, and
The
all.
pier.
Yeah, yeah, he did all that because it didn't make sense to have the wife swapping if she wasn't going to do it. So he
Mhm.
did all that, and he said he loathed his life because his daughter found out. She wife wouldn't, because she was dying of cancer. I guess she wouldn't told the daughter, but and I didn't do anything with him.
Mm. So do you think I'd be interested to know, do you think is there a difference in how we accept this idea of monogamy or non-monogamy depending on race? So do you think that white people are more open to accepting it versus black people in the gay space?
I don't know about the gay space. I remember growing up in the '60s when if, I'm young, but I overhear stuff about stuff like that, and black people would always say, my mother and grandmother would say, "Oh, I know those white people are. They do anything."
Well, you see, when you said it was a white guy, and I was like, they were white. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they do anything.
But
I
I,
I remember I was fooling around with this guy back in the '70s, and he said to me, I wouldn't know, but he said, black women don't give blowjobs. There's something that they don't do. And black women, if you go down, and I had a black woman tell me this back in the '70s, if a man went down on me, I will never I'll never be with a man that go down. They thought that was the worst thing you could do, go down on each other. They thought it was worse. But anyway, my nieces and my nieces now, that's all they talk about.
I'm like, who? Look, don't threaten me with a good time. Like, yeah, no, so I can remember growing up in like middle school when we started to talk about sex a little bit more, and everybody was all they used I matured a lot more than or faster than the other boys. And so by like eighth grade, I had a mustache, and you probably could see like a little bit of hair growing in around here. And they used to say, "Oh, because that's somebody pussy."
Mm,
And I was like, "Oh, okay." And at the time, I was like, I was trying to come off as straight. I don't know how successful I was at doing that, but I was just like, "Oh, okay, whatever." But I also remember hear people say like you weren't supposed to do that. That's nasty.
yeah, yeah.
It's like eating swine. I remember something like people say it's like eating swine. I'm like, okay, but I do like bacon. So, but yeah, it's just it's crazy how just sex has evolved. I mean, I hear my grandmother tell me stories about how growing up in the South and how they didn't talk about sex.
Right.
Hell, I mean, my grandmother didn't talk to me about sex. My mother was more upfront about sex, but yeah, nobody was really talking about that. So you kind of had to learn on your own through trial and error. And if you didn't have a relationship or to model it yourself after, you were just trying to figure it out. Like I didn't grow up in a household where I saw a male figure treating a woman figure a certain type of way, or I had very strong women around me.
Yeah.
And if anything I got from that was make your own decisions. So if if you want to be with somebody and they want to do something or do something outside your relationship, you decide whether or not that's something you want to accept.
Mm.
Just keep people out your business so you won't have to have conversations and get people's perspective on what you do in your house and in your bedroom.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because that's how you want to live your life.
Well, I just noticed that being that I was there in the 80s, what was going on in the gay community in the 80s. But it's like, and that, well, I was one of the reasons. Everybody was screwing around with everybody. But I think it hasn't, I just, with the new generation, it seems to me, I don't know, it it's, hasn't changed, so to speak. But it's accepted, it's more acceptable.
So when you say what was going on in the 80s, I'm assuming you're saying like the AIDS crisis.
Yeah,
So yes, I think we are in a different space and time now where I don't think that the biggest fear for many is contracting AIDS or HIV.
right.
I mean, and I guess you can use Magic Johnson as a timeline for when like when it was at its peak and people were concerned versus now where folks are just like, oh, I'm just gonna go take some medication.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
I'm just gonna take some medication, or I'm gonna take the medication after I've been exposed. They have shots now that you can get every 2 months. So I think that times have changed. Um, and I think but I would say along the way, people probably were still freaking the same way that they were before.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I think they were still having the same amount of sex that they were having back then.
right. Yeah,
Like maybe you use a condom now, right? Maybe you'll know to go to the doctor to get regular screenings to make sure that you are okay. Especially because people with AIDS and HIV are living so much longer than what they did before. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but back in the day, it was like we found out somebody had it on Sunday. By Saturday, we might have been planning a funeral.
right, right. Yeah, they were dropping. It was scary because they were dropping dead. I'm in my 20s and guys were just dropping dead.
Yeah, but I would say that could be a reason why, even for you, like you said, I want somebody to be with, because that's trauma.
It's proper.
Like that was trauma that you endured, right? That was something that you experienced, and it probably scared the shit out of you, and ain't no coming back from that type of scare,
Yeah,
right? And so I can imagine, based upon generations, like I would say for all the people who've gone through that, there are probably some that's like, I want to be with one person and one person only.
yeah,
And then I think it's also another group of folks that probably would say, life is not promised, tomorrow's not promised, and so I'm just gonna have sex with everybody I can while I can.
and there was a lot of guys who had that thinking back in the 80s. They thought like that.
So
It's sad, but
I mean, so it's
I mean
sad.
back then. I don't know about now, but I'm just saying
Well,
back.
but I would even like back then, it's sad to think about it back then from the person looking in. But I guess I'm not really sad for them because I feel like they lived their life.
Yeah,
So I can't really be sad about it. Like, you wanted to go fuck like rabbits. You did it. and you knew what the consequences were.
Well, you knew the
So,
consequences.
so why would I be mad or sad about like you? I'm actually happy you lived. Like the final it's unfortunate that that was the final, like I guess result of your living, but at the end of the day, what we can say at your funeral is that you lived.
Yep, they live. So anyway, guess I'm going to end this podcast. I
Well,
hope
I
that my
appreciate.
audience who hears it will understand what we're talking
Oh,
about.
I said you gave me forewarning that this was going to be a place of, I guess, a hot topic type discussion. So I appreciate that, but I also appreciate you giving us the space to have these types of conversations because they oftentimes go untalked about,
Yeah,
uh, especially in our community. But most of all, I'm also appreciative that even through our experiences, we were like there's a divide, obviously a generational divide, but it was good to hear about your experiences because they actually did align with some of my own experiences, and so that means shit not changing.
that's what I'm saying. I tell these like, oh, what was it? My cousin was upset or something about. She kept saying these young kids, these young. I said, hold on. I said, don't blame it on the young kids because it's the baby boomers who had these kids. Y'all didn't take care, y'all didn't raise them right to begin with. So now they got kids. So
Hmm.
my sister have grandchildren, and her grandchildren acting all stupid and everything. I said, honey, when you was raising your daughter, instead of you raising your daughter, you out there with me at the bars hanging out. So you can't get that at these young kids today. They get who do they think they got it from?
I always say somebody gonna teach you is either the person that raises you in the streets, it's either
Yeah,
two who gonna raise you.
yeah.
So, no, but I'm thankful for this opportunity.
Okay, well, thank you for being my guest.
You have just heard the craziness that lives inside my head.